And just like that, Indiana loses 3 players to the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. If you're here on the YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 1,900 subscribers. We're 6 away. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you waiting on? You may as well come a part of it and be a part of Locked On Hoosiers. We're having a lot of fun over here. Turn on notifications wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on the video or the audio version, I appreciate you being here. We knew it was going to happen. We didn't know when. We didn't know exactly who it was going to be, but we had a pretty good idea. And Indiana basketball loses 3 so far to the transfer portal. We'll talk about those guys today, what it means that they're leaving, what the Hoosiers have to do to try to replace them, plus who they've reached out to already, who they're interested in and bringing in through the transfer portal. Plus, we'll look at the NCAA tournament and make predictions for the Big Ten based off of win totals in the betting lines in Las Vegas. So that's what's on the show today. Appreciate you being here and becoming an everydayer. Those are those of you that are here every single day. I appreciate you. CJ Gunn, Payton Sparks, and Caleb Banks are the 3 guys that have left the Indiana basketball program. CJ Gunn, the 6'6" guard, Payton Sparks, the 6'9" center, and Caleb Banks, the 6'8" small forward. Look, we knew this was going to happen. We knew that Indiana was going to lose some guys to the portal. And we had a pretty good idea that it was going to be guys like this. CJ Gunn, a guard that, look, just didn't play all that much. And look, he's been here for 2 years. I think he averaged 2 points as a freshman and 4 points as a sophomore. His shooting numbers were low. He just didn't get in the game a whole lot. And when he did get in the game, he just wasn't all that effective for this Indiana team, on a team that really could have used a guard like him to step up and make this team better, especially when Xavier Johnson dealt with injuries, Trey Galloway dealt with injuries and was kind of inconsistent at times. You just didn't have a go-to guard on the bench. Between CJ Gunn and Anthony Leal, you just didn't get what you were looking for. And Anthony Leal's a little bit of a different story, being the hometown kid, being a senior. He's coming back again, right? He's just kind of there having a good time, and we appreciate him being there. He hit a big shot for us late this year. But in terms of CJ Gunn, man, he just struggled with his shot. He struggled with consistency, and he just didn't play a whole lot. And so, is Indiana losing a whole lot here? Not really. He was a great recruit, and I think he could go and be a really good player somewhere. And I'll say this too. I don't know if Indiana did him justice. I don't know if Mike Woodson really coached him as well as he should have, and if CJ Gunn improved the way he wanted to here in Bloomington. So I'm not surprised that he's in the portal. I'm not surprised that he's leaving. And I hope the best for him. I mean, the guy was a top 20 recruit coming out of the state of Georgia. So or not in Georgia, but in Indianapolis, apologies. In Indianapolis, I'm thinking of Caleb Banks out of Georgia, but he was still a really good recruit out of Indianapolis. And again, I just don't think we did him justice. I think he could be better. Do I think he could be a starter right away? I don't know. Maybe at a small program, but he just needs to get better. He needs to learn some fundamentals, work on that shot. I think a lot of it's in his head as well. And I hope the best for CJ Gunn. Payton Sparks, when he was a transfer coming in, he was here. And you talk about a guy that just didn't see the floor. He just didn't see the floor, man. He just didn't come in. And he's in a tough spot being a 6'9" center because he was playing behind Kel'el Ware and Malik Reneau. That's tough to do, right? That's extremely tough to come in and have effective minutes. Now, he could have had a role coming off the bench and played effective minutes, but again, the same story with all 3 of these guys. When they got in, they just didn't do what they needed to do. They just didn't play how they needed to play. In 24 games, he averaged 2 points, and he just didn't have all that much work. And I don't know. It just seemed like the game wasn't there for him. The game was a little quick for him. He just seemed kind of like he was out there just a body trying to eat up minutes. But even then, he didn't really get a chance to do that all that much. I'm not sweating about Payton Sparks. Kind of upset about CJ Gunn. Not overly concerned with Payton Sparks. It's a guy that averaged 13 points before he got here. He'll go find a smaller school, and I think he'll be just fine. The one that I am upset about is Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks leaving is tough because I think this guy has some serious potential. I really do. 6'8", averaged 2 points here as a freshman, and then 2.6 as a sophomore. And this guy was a really, really good player. I mean, a really good player from the South, and he came to Indiana and just never got his shot. And I think that's a shame because I think he showed some serious potential in Sparks when he got in. I think he showed the athleticism. I think he showed the shooting. I think he showed the playmaking, the basketball IQ. I really hate that he didn't get his shot here, or maybe as much as I would like to have seen. And Caleb Banks leaving is tough. That's a guy that you could at least put on the floor this past year and feel okay with when he was in. It's like, okay, we got to go to the bench. Caleb Banks, okay, maybe we're okay for a few minutes. That's kind of how I felt when he came in. CJ Gunn, little risky. Payton Sparks, we just didn't have the confidence at all. And so seeing Caleb Banks dip out is really tough. And I think he's going to go, and I think he could play on a higher level team. I'm talking like a Power 6 type of squad. And man, if he could really establish a dog mentality, right? A mental takeover mentality type of thing, I think he could be a really solid player. Now, I don't know where he goes. I don't know where any of these guys are going to go. And it's not a shock that we lost guys like this, but it does hurt. And when you don't have high school recruits coming in, you've got to go dominate the portal. We talked about that yesterday. But is dominating the portal how you really want to build your program and how you want to make yourself better year after year? I don't know. I think it's easier to do in basketball than it is in football, but that's where Indiana stands right now. CJ Gunn, Payton Sparks, Caleb Banks, all in the transfer portal. Indiana loses 3 at the same time. They'll be expected to enter, all that type of language, but we're just talking as they're in the portal, they're gone, and Indiana's got to find a way to replace them. Good thing is they're reaching out to some big, big names. We'll talk about those guys that Indiana has reached out to coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Better Together. Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy application. Better Together offers a familiar experience for existing daily fantasy sports players with a social twist. You can play with a friend or teammate. Look, they have all sorts of contests throughout the week. They've got a ton of things going on right now for the NCAA tournament. Be sure you go download Better Together. They provide a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experiment of watching sports. Makes you realize that daily fantasy sports is fun alone, but like a lot of other things, it's just better when you're doing it together with your friends. You get a group of guys together, a group of girls, whoever you are, come all together, download the app, and you can compete in these contests and earn points all at the same time. It's a way to stay connected with your friends when gone are the days of watching sports together in person. Get on a FaceTime, get on a Discord, whatever it is, and you can play better together. Is your bracket already busted coming up? If you feel like it is, well, it very well might be given how this tournament's going to go. If you had in the first 4 games, you may already be out, right? Tired of the same old daily fantasy grind where you make a roster, cross your fingers, and hope for the best? Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasies platform, where teamwork triumphs talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social daily fantasy sports movement. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the code LOCKEDON because winning alone is fun, but it is better together. That is BETTOR together. Go download the app today. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. Please hit the like button, subscribe on the YouTube channel, turn on your notifications wherever you get your podcast. We talked about the guys that have left the Indiana program or planning on leaving so far through the transfer portal, but Mike Woodson and this staff have gotten on it quickly on all the guys that they have reached out to so far that are showing interest, or I guess that Indiana is showing interest in and waiting and wanting to hopefully have these guys show interest in them. Numerous big-time players, most of them from smaller mid-major schools, which, look, that's the name of the game in today's transfer portal world, right? That's how this is working. You go find these guys. You go find the Dalton Connects of the world like Tennessee did, right? And you go find those guys where they're balling out at these small schools where bigger schools didn't give them a chance at the time. And then they go ball out, you go find them, and you hope that it translates to a bigger program. And that's exactly what Indiana's doing right now. You've got Jacoby Gillespie from Belmont, 6 foot, 175-pound guard, who was named all second team MVC and was on the all defensive team. That's something Indiana could use, a defensive guard. How about that? 17 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals per game while shooting almost 40% from three-point range. Sign me up. I'm in. I've watched some of the highlights, and when you've got a guy that can shoot, a guy that can score, and a guy that can lock down defensively, how many times did we get burned this year from a high-level guard that just took over the game, that could just make shots, that was just better than what we had on the floor? I'll take an all-defensive team guard any day of the week that can score and shoot it from outside. So keep your eye on Jacoby Gillespie from Belmont. You have Cannon Carlisle from Stanford, who is a 6'3", 185-pound guard who averaged 11 points and 32% from the three-point line as a freshman from Stanford. 4-star recruit who was ranked number 52 in the nation out of Overtime Elite. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining. So this isn't a mid-major guy. This is a Power 6 conference guy in a conference that out of the Pac-12 that, hey, doesn't exist anymore. A bigger guard for sure, and I think a guy that's got some potential, but he's only a freshman. So you'd also be bringing in a guy here that's got 3 years of eligibility. That's exactly what you're looking for. Instead of these, and I saw a lot of you in the YouTube comments talking about, well, we're not looking for 1-year rentals, and we're not looking for just a guy for a year and then have to go and do the same thing again. Look, I totally get it. I absolutely get it. With the portal, you're trying to find those guys that make your team better, but also make your team better for a longer period of time, because there are times where you can go and find one guy to fill a hole that you need for a season to compete for a championship, but Indiana's not in that spot right now. We're looking for guys that can come in and be here long-term and make this program better down the road. And so that's what Indiana has got to go find right now. How about this guy, Frankie Fiddler from Omaha? 6'7", 200 pounds. He's a wing who averaged 20 points and 6 rebounds a game while shooting 36% from three-point range. First team All-Summit League and a junior. Problem is he only has the 1 year of eligibility. This is the guy you go out and get. Like I was just mentioning, you go get this guy. You're like, all right, we're bringing you in for 1 year. We want you to grab rebounds and shoot. That's what we want you to do. Come in and just be an animal for a year and then go and do your own thing. So, look, maybe that's what's going to happen. I think he is a really talented player. You have to worry about coming from a place like Omaha. Can it transfer, right? Can it go from Omaha to Power 5, Power 6 basketball in the Big Ten? I don't know. Those are things we have to find out. But 6'7", who averaged 20 points a game, yeah, the guy's got skill. Problem is he only has that 1 year of eligibility. Amari Williams from Drexel. He is 6'10". How about that? 6'10", 227-pound forward. He has 1 year left of eligibility. First team All-CAA as a senior and Defensive Player of the Year 3 straight times in the conference. How about that? Blocking almost 2 shots per game as a sophomore all the way through his senior year, averaging 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. So this is the guy that you go and get if Kel'el Ware does decide to go to the NBA, which there's a pretty good chance that happens, right? But this is the guy you go to replace him. Yes, it's another 1 year rental, but it's also an experienced guy. Somebody that's played some pretty big basketball where he's at. And he was the Defensive Player of the Year in the conference 3 years in a row. Are you serious? I don't care who you are, what conference you're in. That's absurd to be able to do that. And he's 6'10", he's 227. That's a big guy. He's not as tall as Kel'el Ware, but hey, 6'10", still a pretty good size. And this is somebody you get to replace him for a year before you can go and try to recruit a high school guy to come in next year. That's what you have to think about here too. Some of those 1 year rentals that we're worried about, maybe that's what you have to do before you can go and recruit these guys out of high school to replace them and come in and be your long-term guys. I mean, it's a big formula that Mike Woodson and the staff have to figure out. You also have Dakota LaFew from Mount St. Mary's, 6'5", 185-pound guard, so a really big guard. I love it. That's where the game's going. It really is. That's where the game's at is big-time guards. Another guy with just the 1 year remaining. He averaged 17 points as a senior, shooting 36% from three, and he was named first team All-MAC. So lots of shooters in here. You have Trey Dinkins from Canisius, who is a stud also. Michael Ajayi, we talked about him from Pepperdine the other day. Marcus Foster from Furman, 6'4" guard, who has another year, and as a senior, averaged 17 points, 7.5 rebounds, and all Southern League second team. Only 30% from three, but above 35 in the last 2 years. So a guy that's been around, maybe had a down year a little bit, but I like those bigger guards too, because it seemed like Indiana, Xavier Johnson was a smaller guard, Anthony Leal, CJ Gunn, Gabe Cupps, all those guys are smaller guards. I'm ready for us to have some big boys out there that can handle the basketball and shoot as well. And overall, you're getting guys who just know how to shoot the ball. You're getting you're at least going after scorers and shooters and rebounders, like guys that play the game the right way, somebody that's going to come in and isn't just one-dimensional, right? I don't want somebody that can just shoot or just rebound or just block shots. I want somebody that can do multiple things. And I think all those guys on that list, and there's more on that list, I think all those guys have that. So Indiana's got to find a way to convince them, hey, this is a place you want to be. This is a place you can get better. That's going to be tough to do because I just don't know how many players have gotten better here over the last couple of years. So we'll keep you updated on the transfer portal. Exciting names in there, exciting stats in there as well. Coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll take a look at the NCAA tournament, make some predictions for the Big Ten and their win total. Can the Big Ten put on a good showing in the NCAA tournament, something they just haven't done a whole lot of in the last few years? We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to make it to the next level. The Auburn Tigers can only be described as a Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC. As they knocked off the Florida Gators in the SEC Tournament Championship, they're set to make a run in the NCAA Tournament. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Pulling up this on my phone. I found this the other day. It was yesterday, actually, and it is betting lines on win totals for each conference in the NCAA tournament. And want to look at this because I don't know if the Big Ten's getting slighted or what, but according to Las Vegas, here are the win totals for each conference in the NCAA tournament coming up. The ACC is 6. Big 12 is 13.5. Big East is 7.5. Mountain West 4.5. Pac-12 5.5. SEC 10.5. West Coast 2.5. And Big 10, they're saying the Big 10, the betting line is 8 wins in the NCAA tournament. Well, you look through, we had this discussion yesterday. Nebraska's in there. Wisconsin's in the tournament. Right, you have Purdue in the tournament, which is probably where most of your wins would come from. At least that's what the bettors would think for betting on the Big Ten. Michigan State in there, I'm not super confident in them. And then Illinois as well. So, and Northwestern. So you've got enough teams to get some wins. But I start looking through here. Look, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I don't think Nebraska beats Texas A&M. I have the Aggies in my bracket beating them, so they're out. I have a bad feeling about Wisconsin. I think James Madison could absolutely win that game. That's probably going to be one of the more popular upsets in the NCAA tournament. So it probably won't happen. But in my opinion, I don't think either one of those teams make it out of the first round. You're banking on Purdue. The Big Ten's absolutely banking on Purdue to do something this year and not fall flat on their face like they have most of the time. Now, us here at Hoosiers, I don't think we'd care too much if they wanted to fall flat again. But I think Purdue does make a little bit of a run this year. I'll give them at least 1, 2. I'll get them all the way to the Elite Eight. I'll give them 1, 2, 3. That's at least 3 wins for the Big Ten right there in terms of Purdue. Looking at the other side, Michigan State, look, I think Mississippi State beats that team. I've told you I don't think Michigan State's a tournament team, and Josh Hubbard is a dog. If you haven't watched him play for Mississippi State, you should. He's really, really good. Michigan State can't hang with him. They can't score with him. He may go off for 30 in that game. I have Michigan State losing in the opening round. So that's 3 Big Ten teams already off the rip that I have losing in the first day. I think Illinois will win their first game. I think they'll win their second game. I think they'll at least get to the Sweet 16, but that's a really good Iowa State team. So give me 2 more for Illinois. What's that, 5 for the Big Ten? And then Northwestern, I don't know if they beat FAU, but even if they do, could they beat UConn? I don't know. That's really tough. I like Boo Buie a lot. I think that's a good player. I think that's a really good Northwestern team. But let's say just for fun, let's say they beat FAU. That would be, 5 or 6, and then UConn be 7 or 8. I don't have them getting much farther than that. So look, I'm not very confident in this Big Ten conference this year in the tournament. I'm not confident in them at all. And so if I were a betting man, which, I'll dabble in it every now and then, the Big Ten having 8 total wins, that's a pretty good line. That's about where I've got it. Oh, that's so tough, man. That's so tough. Just for fun, I'll say take the over. Take the over of 8 wins. I don't feel good about that. I really don't. My gut's telling me to go under, but life's too short to bet the under is what they say. I just don't have confidence in Nebraska. I probably should, given what they've done to us this year. Wisconsin, definitely not, especially with them being in that 12-5 seed or that 12-5 game. Purdue is a 1 seed. You're betting on them. You're banking on them, really. And then Michigan State, I have them losing to Mississippi State in every single bracket, every way, shape, or form. They do not win that game. And the NCAA Tournament Committee should be ashamed that they put Michigan State. Also should be ashamed they put Virginia in there. Did we see what happened last night? What a disaster and an embarrassment Virginia was to college basketball. Iowa State being out of the Big 12, that's who Illinois has to go through. Not very pretty for the Fighting Illini, who we know this, when they get to March, they typically trip up as well. And then Northwestern. So my gut's telling me to go under 8 wins for the Big Ten, but take over just for fun, maybe? I know I'm kind of wishy-washy on that, but I just don't think we have a good tournament because I just don't think the Big Ten is what it has been in the past. It has not been a great conference top to bottom this year. And I'm surprised that we got as many in as we did. I'll be honest. I'm surprised we got in the amount of teams that we did and the matchups that we got. are just not great. Having a couple 8-9 matchups, having a 12-5 matchup. Luckily, you've got some higher seeds with Purdue and Illinois, but I don't feel good about our conference in the tournament. I am excited about the tournament, though. I am. I'm very excited to watch it. The women's tournament getting underway as well, so really excited to keep up to date with the women of Indiana as well, who played this weekend here in Bloomington. So excited for that. We'll cover both of those here in the next few weeks on Locked On Hoosiers. Excited for that. We'll keep you updated on the transfer portal, and spring football is underway. We'll be talking about that here on the show as well. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.